I didn't believe in anything supernatural until my brother locked eyes with a wild gorilla, and the gorilla bowed. I'm Ethan Cole. I grew up in a small logging town in northern Washington where nothing unusual ever happened. Just trees, rain, and people who minded their own business. Until my younger brother Mason disappeared for 36 hours and came back. Different. Mason was 17, smart, quiet, the kind of kid who didn't talk much but noticed everything. He loved the forest more than people, said it made sense, said it didn't lie. That should have been my first warning. The second was the way animals reacted to him. Dogs didn't bark, they watched. Birds didn't scatter, they waited. Even deer stood still when he passed, like they were expecting something. But we joked about it, called him Forest Whisperer. He'd just smile like he knew something we didn't. The day he disappeared, it was raining hard. Not a storm, just that steady, soaking kind that makes the woods feel heavier. He grabbed his jacket and said, "I'm going deeper today." "Deeper than what?" I asked. He didn't answer. That was the last normal moment. By nightfall, he wasn't back. We called his phone. Dead. We checked his usual trails. Nothing. By midnight, search teams were out, with flashlights slicing through fog. And then, something weird started happening. The search dogs refused to go past a certain point. Not hesitating, not confused. They refused, whining, pulling back. One even snapped at its handler, something it had never done before. That's when one of the older trackers muttered, "Something claimed that ground." I laughed it off at the time. I shouldn't have. We found Mason the next afternoon, walking out of the forest like nothing happened. No injuries, no panic, no explanation, just calm, too calm. "Where were you?" I asked. He looked at me, and for a second I swear his eyes didn't look human. "Learning," he said. "That night I heard something outside, not footsteps, heavier, measured. Like something big didn't care who heard it. I grabbed a flashlight and went out back, and that's when I saw it. At the edge of the tree line, a gorilla. Now before you say anything, no, gorillas don't live in Washington. I know that. Everyone knows that. But this wasn't a bear, wasn't a trick of the light. It stood upright, massive, still, watching the house, watching Mason's window. I froze, and then Mason stepped, outside, barefoot, like he was expected. He didn't look scared. He looked relieved. "Ethan," he said quietly, without looking at me, "don't move." The gorilla took one step forward, then another. Every instinct in my body screamed to run, to yell, to grab something. But I couldn't, because Mason stepped toward it. "Hey," he said softly, like he was greeting a friend. And then something happened that I will never be able to explain for the rest of my life. The gorilla lowered its head, slowly, deliberately, like a sign of respect or recognition. My brother raised his hand, and the gorilla mirrored it. I remember whispering, "What the hell?" Mason turned slightly toward me, and for the first time there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Not fear, not excitement, authority. "It's okay," he said. "He knows I'm back." Back from where? Back to what? The gorilla let out a low, deep sound, not aggressive, not threatening, more like confirmation. Then it turned and disappeared into the forest, just like that. No branches snapping, no heavy steps, just gone. I ran to Mason. "What was that?" He looked at me like I was the one asking stupid questions. "That?" he said. "That's just one of them. One of them, that night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying it over and over. The way it moved, the way it understood, the way Mason didn't seem surprised at all." At 3:17 a.m., I heard his door open. I followed him. He walked straight into the woods. No flashlight, no hesitation, like he knew exactly where he was going. And this time, I followed. We walked for nearly an hour, deeper than I'd ever been, past the marked trails, past the areas locals avoided, into a part of the forest that felt wrong. Not dangerous, just watched. And then we reached a clearing. Mason stopped, raised his hand slightly, and whispered, "They're already here." That's when I heard it. Not one, not two, dozens. Heavy breathing, branches shifting, low, resonant sounds that vibrated in my chest. Shapes began to form in the darkness. Massive, silent, watching. Gorillas. Not one. A group. In the middle of a Washington forest that shouldn't have had any. And every single one of them was looking at my brother. Then the biggest one stepped forward. Easily twice the size of the one from earlier. Scars across its chest, eyes locked on Mason. The air went still. Mason stepped forward, again, like this was normal. "Hey," he said quietly. The gorilla stared at him, long, unblinking. And then it did something that made my stomach drop. It knelt. Not aggressive, not submissive. Something else, something ancient. Like it was recognizing him, or accepting him. And that's when I realized something I didn't want to believe. My brother hadn't just gotten lost in the forest. He had been taken, and whatever took him gave him back. Different. The moment the gorillas surrounded us, I realized something terrifying. They weren't deciding if I was a threat. They were deciding if I was worth keeping alive. I couldn't breathe. Not because I was tired, not because I was scared, because every instinct in my body was telling me the same thing. You don't belong here. They moved without sound, dozens of them, massive shadows circling, shifting, watching, close enough now that I could hear their breathing, slow, controlled, not wild, not chaotic, organized. I grabbed Mason's arm. "We need to go, now." He didn't even look at me. "Don't run," he said quietly. "That's the only thing that will get you killed." That's when the largest one, the scarred one, stepped closer. Each step felt like pressure in my chest. Not just fear, something deeper, like standing in front of something that knew it was above you. It stopped just a few feet away, close enough for me to see the details. The scars weren't random. They were old, layered, like history written into skin. Its eyes locked onto mine, and I swear to God, it felt like being read. I looked away first. "Ethan," Mason said softly, "look at him. Are you insane? Look at him." Something in his voice made me do it. I raised my eyes again, slowly, carefully. The gorilla didn't move, but something changed. Not physically, mentally. The panic faded, not gone, but muted, like someone had turned the volume down inside my head. "What is happening?" I whispered. Mason stepped forward, putting himself between me and it. "He's checking you," he said. "Checking me for what?" Mason hesitated, and that hesitation scared me more than anything else. "Intent." I laughed. A short, broken sound. "That's not a thing, Mason." The gorilla let out a low rumble, deep, not aggressive, but disapproving. Mason exhaled slowly. "It is here." Silence, stretched. Seconds, maybe minutes. I don't know. Then the gorilla shifted its gaze, back to Mason, and just like that, the pressure lifted. "They'll let you stay," Mason said. "Stay?" I snapped. "I'm not staying with—" The entire group reacted, not violently, but instantly. Every head turned toward me, and I understood. Volume matters here. Emotion matters. Everything is being watched, measured. I lowered my voice. "We're leaving." Mason shook his head. "No." That word hit harder than anything else. No, I repeated. You disappeared for a day and a half, came back acting like this, and now you're telling me you're staying in the woods with a bunch of... I stopped myself. Even I knew not to finish that sentence. With them, Mason said calmly. Yeah. My chest tightened. You're not serious. I've never been more serious. The scarred gorilla stepped closer to him, and Mason didn't flinch. Instead, he placed his hand against its chest. I felt my stomach drop. The gorilla didn't react aggressively, didn't move, didn't even blink. It accepted it, and then it did something even worse. It placed its own massive hand on Mason's shoulder. Not dominance, not control, recognition. My voice came out quieter now. What did they do to you? Mason finally looked at me, and for the first time, I saw conflict in his eyes. They didn't do anything to me, he said. They showed me something. What? He glanced around at them, then back at me. How to listen. That doesn't mean anything. It does here. He took a step back, toward them, not me. They don't think like we do, he continued. No lying, no pretending. No hidden motives. Yeah? Then what do they want with you? Mason's jaw tightened slightly. That's the part you're not going to like. A pause. They think I can help translate. Translate what? Us. That word echoed in my head. Us. Humans. To them, Mason said quietly. We're the unpredictable ones. I shook my head. This is insane. You're talking like you belong here. Mason didn't answer. He didn't have to, because deep down, I already knew. He did. A sudden crack echoed through the forest. Sharp, distant, but unmistakable. A gunshot. Everything changed instantly. The entire group tensed, not panicked, not scattered, focused. The scarred gorilla turned its head slightly, listening, calculating. Mason's expression shifted, urgency. They're here early, he said. Who is here? Another gunshot, closer this time. The gorillas began to move, not randomly, strategically. Some climbed, some vanished into shadows, some stayed, like positions in a system I didn't understand. Mason grabbed my arm. Now you have a choice. What choice? You can go back, he said. Pretend none of this is real. Another shot, closer, or you stay and help me stop this. Stop what? Mason looked me dead in the eyes. They're not here to study them, Ethan. A pause. They're here to take one. My blood ran cold. Take, as in, capture, he said, or kill if they have to. A third gunshot rang out, so close now it echoed through the clearing, and then a sound I will never forget. Not a roar, not anger, pain. One of them had been hit. Everything inside me snapped into place. This wasn't some impossible mystery anymore. This was a choice, human side or something else. Mason tightened his grip on my arm. If you stay, he said, you don't get to hesitate. I looked at him, then at the forest, then at the shadows moving faster now, and I realized something terrifying. For the first time in my life, I didn't trust my own side. What do? I asked. Mason nodded once. Sharp, decisive. Good, he said. Then he turned and gave a signal, not a shout, not a gesture I understood, but the gorillas did. Instantly, the entire forest shifted, and just before we moved, Mason said one last thing. Stay close to me. A beat. And whatever happens, don't let them separate you. The man aiming at my brother didn't hesitate, and in that moment, I realized the gorillas weren't the most dangerous thing in that forest. Down, I shouted. Too late. The shot fired. A sharp thwip cut through the air. Mason didn't move, didn't flinch, because something else did. A massive blur slammed into him, knocking him sideways just as the dart struck. The scarred gorilla. The dart hit its shoulder, and the sound it made wasn't rage. It was controlled pain, low, deep, contained. Everything exploded after that. The forest came alive. Branches snapped. Shadows dropped from above. The ground itself felt like it shifted. The gorillas moved as one, not chaos, not panic, a system. Two of them grabbed the injured one immediately, lifting, shielding. Others spread outward, flanking, cutting off angles. "Move!" Mason yelled, grabbing my arm. We ran. Another shot rang out, then another. "Targets are mobile," someone shouted behind us. "Split them. Don't let them regroup." Human voices, cold, focused, professional. "They're trained," I said, breathless. "I know," Mason replied. "You knew this would happen." I knew it was coming. That hit harder than anything else. We ducked behind a fallen tree. Mason turned to me, serious, urgent. "They've been tracking this group for months," he said. "Drones, heat signatures, patterns. And you didn't tell anyone?" "Who would I tell?" he snapped. "The same people out there pulling triggers?" I didn't have an answer, because deep down, I knew he was right. Another gunshot, closer. A branch exploded beside us. "They're pushing us toward the ridge," Mason said. "Why?" He hesitated. "Less escape routes." "Of course. Hunt strategy." I looked at him. Really looked. "You're not just guessing anymore, are you?" Mason shook his head. "No." A beat. "I remember things now." My stomach dropped. "From when you disappeared?" He nodded. "They didn't just find me, Ethan." A pause. "I found them first." Everything slowed. "What does that mean?" Mason's voice lowered. "There's something deeper in the forest, a place they protect." "Protect from what?" He looked toward the direction of the gunfire. "From us." A sudden roar echoed, louder than before. Closer. I turned, just in time to see one of the men get pulled into the undergrowth. Gone in a second. No blood, no scream, just gone. "They're not killing them," I said. "No," Mason replied. "They're removing them." There was a difference, and somehow, that was worse. "Why?" I asked. Mason swallowed. "Because they don't want to become us." Another shot. Then silence. Too much silence. Mason froze. "Boss, that's not good." "What?" "They stopped shooting." Before I could respond, a voice cut through the trees. "Ethan Cole." My blood went cold. They knew my name. "Step out slowly," the voice continued. "You're not the target." I looked at Mason. "That's a lie," he said immediately. "How do you know?" "Because now they think you're leverage." The voice again. "We just want the subject." Subject. Not person. Subject. Mason exhaled slowly. "This is where it ends," he said. "No," I said. "We can still—" He shook his head. "You don't get it yet." A beat. "I'm not the one they're after anymore." "What?" "They've already seen enough." A chill ran down my spine. "Seen enough of what?" Mason looked at me. And this time, there was no hesitation. Of change. The forest shifted again, but this time, it wasn't just the gorillas. Birds scattered in coordinated bursts. Deer moved, not away, but around. Even the wind seemed to redirect. Everything was aligning. "What's happening?" I whispered. Mason's voice was almost calm now. "They're showing you." "Showing me what?" He stepped back, toward the trees, toward them, that we were never in control. My chest tightened. "Mason, don't." He gave me a small, sad smile. "I'm not leaving," he said. "You don't have to." "I do." Another pause, because someone has to stand between them and us. The weight of that hit all at once. You're choosing them? I shouted. Mason didn't raise his voice. I'm choosing balance. The men moved in. I could see them now. 3 of them, weapons raised. Last warning, one of them called. Mason stepped forward, hands visible, not surrendering, presenting himself, and the forest reacted. Every gorilla emerged, not hidden anymore, not shadows, a line between Mason and the humans. The scarred one, wounded but standing, stepped beside him, equal, not owner, not pet, equal. One of the men whispered, "What the hell?" And that's when I understood. This wasn't about capture anymore. This was about a decision, 2 worlds, and one line between them. The man aiming at Mason tightened his grip. "Take the shot," another said quietly. He hesitated, just for a second, and that second changed everything, because Mason spoke, not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. "They're not the animals you think they are." Silence. "And neither are we," he added. The man's finger eased slightly off the trigger. Confusion, doubt, human. That was all it took. The scarred gorilla stepped forward, not attacking, just present, and slowly, one by one, the men lowered their weapons. No orders, no agreement, just instinct. They felt it, too, the line, and for the first time, no one crossed it. Final resolution. By sunrise, they were gone. The men retreated, no shots fired, no captures made. And Mason? He didn't come home, not that day, not ever, but sometimes, late at night, when the forest goes quiet, too quiet, I still hear it. That low, deep sound. Not a warning, not a threat, a signal. And somehow, I know what it means. He's still out there, not lost, choosing.